Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel. I'm a general physician. I'm not an endocrinologist. Today we'll be discussing on a topic we call as a growth hormone. What is the normal physiology? What is the function? What are the different disorders, etc. And in subsequent lecture we'll be discussing regarding acromegaly, gigantism, and dwarfism. Growth hormone is also called somatotropin or somatotrophic hormone. We'll be discussing under introduction, action, regulation, clinical disorders, and investigations. Growth hormone is also called somatotropin. Now, this particular growth hormone is synthesized by alpha cell, or we call eosinophilic cells of anti-pituitary gland. So, it is secreted from acidophilic cells or alpha cells or eosinophilic cells of pituitary gland, and again in a pituitary gland it is by the anterior pituitary gland we call pars distalis, and it is second name for that is somatotropes. Name of these cells is also called somatotropes. Chemical structure wise it is consisting of 191 amino acid chain, and normal growth hormone molecular weight is approximately 22,000, and it is also called as HGH, human gonadotropic hormone. N is for normal. So normal human gonadotropic hormone is weighing around 22,000 molecular weight, while variant of human gonadotropic hormone, which is written as H small, GH is capital, and V is small. That is variant variety of human gonadotropic hormone, which is molecular weight is around 20,000. While there is another variety we call des amino variety, which is less active. Normally we come across normal human gonadotropic hormone. Now this particular hormone is secreted from anterior pituitary gland, and again in anterior pituitary gland we call pars distalis, and it is secreted by a alpha cell or we call eosinophilic cell or we call acidophilic cell, and it acts on almost all tissue and it promotes growth. That is the main action of a growth hormone. So growth hormone will be acting on bone, muscle, fat, and other tissues. Mainly it will increase in the size of the bones, length of the bones. It will increase the size of the muscle. It is a protein anabolic. And also it will increase the glucose level and it will produce hyperglycemia. And on fat, it will also increase the free fatty acid level and increase the adipose tissue. So this will be the three main action, plus growth of all structures by, because it will stimulate liver to manufacture IGF, insulin like growth factor, and that will be increasing the growth of different cells. So the action of growth hormone we can divide into now. It stimulates the division and multiplication of chondrocytes of cartilage, and by doing that it increases the size of the bone, that is the length of the bone, increasing the height of the children. That's why the height of the children and adolescent will increase till epiphysis fuses. It increases the calcium retention in bone, so it increases the strength of the bone and mineralization of the bone. So this is the action on bone. So it increases the calcium, it increases the mineralization, it increases the length of the bone by multiplication of cartilage. On muscle, it increases the size of sarcomere, that is the size of the muscle, hyperplasia, as well as it increases the glycogen content of the bone. It promotes lipolysis. On fat, it will increase the breakdown of fat and it will increase the free fatty acid. It increases the protein synthesis, and that protein synthesis increases the muscle mass. And that's the reason why good number of times this is misused for building up body. It stimulates the growth of all internal organ except brain. Brain does not increase in size, while all other organ increases in size. It also plays a role in what we call as a fuel homeostasis. That is, it increases the glucose level in blood, by which it provides energy to its cells. It reduces the liver uptake of glucose. It promotes neoglucogenesis, or we call gluconeogenesis, by liver. It contributes to maintenance of function of pancreatic islet cells. So it will increase the function of islet cells in pancreas, and it also stimulates the immune system. So apart from the growth, it has got action on pancreas, it has got action on liver to increase the glucose output by neoglucogenesis, as well as it decreases the liver uptake of glucose, and it also stimulates the immune system. These are additional. So linear growth, bone thickness, soft tissue growth, and protein synthesis becomes the main function. As far as fat is concerned, it increases the fatty acids. It increases the insulin resistance, and by increasing the insulin resistance, it increases the blood glucose. It also mitogenic action of growth hormone mediated through increase in insulin IGF factor, or it is also called somatomedin C. These are the two factors, growth factor and somatomedin C. It acts on different tissue to increase the number of cells and size of the cells. So basically it is a protein anabolic. As far as fat is concerned, it is ketogenic. As far as carbohydrate is concerned, it is diabetogenic. And cartilage and bone is concerned, it increases the growth of the bone, means increases the length of the bone. And somatomedin C, or we call IGF-1, it helps in increasing the growth of all the tissue. So growth hormone has got effect on a pituitary gland. From pituitary gland, after release, it is acting as a growth hormone which will act on liver, which will manufacture IGF-1, IGF-2, which will increase the growth of all epithelial cells, nerve cells, epidermal cells, etc. And it will take part in cellular repair and regeneration, and it will also act on a bone, increasing the length of the bone and also mineralization of the bone. So that is we call the strength of the bone. So it has got a direct action as anti-insulinic effect on a fat cell. It increases the lipolysis and free fatty acid and glycerol in the blood, while acting on a carbohydrate metabolism, it decreases the uptake of glucose by liver. It decreases the what we call as glucose is elevated in blood. In liver, it produces neoglucogenesis, or we call gluconeogenesis, and by that also it increases the glucose level in blood. So it is called diabetogenic. So excess of secretion of a growth hormone will produce hyperglycemia and increases the level of free fatty acid and glycerol. While acting on a liver, along with prolactin, lactogens and insulin, the liver is also acted upon by growth hormone, and it manufactures somatomedin C, or we call insulin like growth factor. So IG IGF-1 and IGF-2, it will manufacture those two, and there is one name called as a somatomedin C. Now this particular somatomedin C or IGF-1 has got effect on a fat cell, and it will give rise to lipogenesis. So this is an indirect action. So action is via somatomedin C, or we call IGF-1, and on muscle it increases the protein synthesis, so it increases the size of muscle. So this is very frequently misused for building up muscles. It also acts on a bone, increases the number of chondrocytes. By increasing the chondrocytes, it increases the cartilage formation. and by increasing the cartilage formation, it increases the length of the bone, and also it increases the mineralization of the bone, so that is strength of the bone is also increased. And this is the entire action of a growth hormone. Plus it has got action on pancreas, also it has got action on what we call as a immune mechanisms. So it has got action on the lymphocytes. So this is the action on muscle, liver and adipose tissue, plus many organs and tissue. This is action on the bone. So insulin like effect of a growth hormone, so that is what it is producing, and anti-insulin like effect of a growth hormone. So this is anti-insulin like effect and this is insulin like effect, and so it has got both effects on a particular muscle. So in a muscle it will give rise to increased amino acid, increased protein synthesis. So this is like insulin, while it decreases the glucose uptake, so it is insulin effect, anti-insulin effect, and it increases the muscle mass. On liver, protein synthesis, RNA synthesis, so insulin like effect, while it increases gluconeogenesis, so it increases the glucose output from liver and increases the blood glucose level, so we call hyperglycemia. And it also manufactures what we call as a somatomidine or IGF-1 and IGF-2. IGF-1 will act on a bone and it will increase the collagen synthesis, protein synthesis, cell proliferation, so increases the size of the bone, length of the bone. Plus it increases the linear growth, so height of the person will increase till cartilage epiphysis fuses. So till that the length of the bone will be increased. At the same time, it also increases the deposition of calcium in the bone, hence increasing the strength of the bone. Almost all cell, it increases the protein synthesis, RNA synthesis, DNA synthesis, and it increases the number of cells as well as the size of the cells. So it increases the mass of a tissue or an organ. So size of the organ is increased as well as the mass of the organ is also increased, and it increases, by that it increases the growth and organ size. So this is the entire effect what is taking place because of the growth hormone on bone as well as all the tissue. So effect on muscle, liver, bone and other tissue. On adipose tissue, it decreases the glucose uptake, it increases the lipolysis. So this is anti-insulin effects, anti-insulin effect, and it decreases the adiposity. So this will be the effect of growth hormone on adipose tissue. So this is the entire picture of action of growth hormone. Plus also it has got effect on other structures, that is pancreas. It will increase the function of islet cells. So it will increase the size of the islet cells and increases the beta cell function also. And we already told you IGF-1 will act like an insulin like activity, anti-lipolytic activity, protein synthesis and epiphyseal growth. We have already shown in a previous slide. So this is the effect on adipose tissue, on kidney, pancreas, etc. That is all the different tissues, muscle, bone, all those we have explained in detail before. This is the effect on liver. This is the effect of what we call as anti-insulin effect. This is insulin-like effect, like what we call as a because of IGF. And because of IGF, it has got also effect. Liver will manufacture IGF, and that IGF will act on a extraskeletal tissues, cell growth, and also on a bone growth. And anti-insulin effect will be on a fat and carbohydrate metabolism. On a carbohydrate metabolism, it will increase the blood sugar level, and on fat, it will produce lipolysis. So by that, the fat tissue will be reduced. So this will be the effect. This IGF will have a negative feedback control on anterior pituitary, and it will inhibit the growth hormone releasing factor, which stimulates the growth hormone secretion from anterior pituitary, and it will also stimulate hypothalamus to secrete growth hormone inhibitory factor, which will inhibit the secretion of growth hormone from anterior pituitary. This is what we call as a negative feedback. And also same time, it will inhibit the growth hormone synthesis and release from anterior pituitary. Growth hormone itself can also inhibit by a short loop mechanism. This is called short loop, and this is called long loop. That is IGF inhibiting the growth hormone production. So there is a short loop control and long loop control. This is the effect of growth hormone on adipose tissue, skeletal muscle, and liver. We already discussed before. So this is what we already told you, that growth hormone inhibitory factor, which is a secretion from a hypothalamus, we call somatostatin, inhibits the secretion of a growth hormone from anterior pituitary, while growth hormone releasing factor, which is also manufactured by pituitary hypothalamus, and that will stimulate the secretion of a growth hormone from acidophilic cell or eosinophilic cells. Also, there will be a stimulus we call neural stimulation, that is diurnal rhythm, or we call circadian rhythm. During sleep, the growth hormone secretion is increased. During stress and during exercise also, growth hormone release is increased. So growth hormone factor will increase during sleep, stress, exercise, and circadian rhythm. Hello. જય સમને. બસ જે દવા આપવાની છે જ આપજે. એ તો એની જગ્યાએ પેલી નવી લાવી દીધી છે ને. બસ એ એક સવાર સાંજ આપવાની છે. ચાલ. While metabolic control wise, decreased glucose level will stimulate the secretion of growth hormone. Decreased free fatty acid and increased amino acid will also stimulate the growth hormone release, and that will be the action. While somatostatin will inhibit, so it has got inhibition on anterior pituitary because it is basically a growth hormone inhibitory factor. So that will inhibit the secretion from acidophilic cell or eosinophilic cell release of growth hormone. So this is the action of what we call as different factors on anterior pituitary or on hypothalamus. So this all factor will act on a hypothalamus. Circadian rhythm, sleep, stress, and exercise. While metabolic factor will also have effect on what we call growth hormone releasing factor, GRH. So it has got a short loop. This is called short loop, and this is called long loop. That is somatomedins C, or we call IGF-1 and IGF-2, will have long loop control, and this is short loop control. That is a growth hormone release from anterior pituitary can also inhibit hypothalamus, as well as anterior pituitary itself can also have an inhibitory effect on hypothalamus. And these are all factors we call metabolic factor, like increased blood glucose, increased free fatty acid, decreased amino acid can have a negative feedback control. And diurnal rhythm, deep sleep, stress, exercise will also have a positive feedback directly acting on a hypothalamus. So these are called a feedback system. So hypothalamus will be acted upon by different factors, and it will increase the production of GHRH, which will stimulate anterior pituitary to release growth hormone, while somatostatin, that is growth hormone inhibitory factor, growth hormone inhibitory releasing hormone, GHRH is releasing factor. Inhibitory factor is called somatostatin, which will inhibit the growth hormone secretion. Hypoglycemia will stimulate growth hormone secretion, while excess of glucose will inhibit the secretion of growth hormone. Exercise will stimulate intake of amino acid and protein, also will stimulate growth hormone secretion. Decreased level of free fatty acid, decreased level of sugar, and decreased level of what we call as free fatty acid, and decreased level of amino acid, all the three will stimulate growth hormone secretion from anterior pituitary. Sleep will also stimulate, stress will also stimulate. Drugs like glucagon, vasopressin, L-DOPA will also increase the production of a growth hormone. Free fatty acid level, if it is elevated, it will inhibit the production of a growth hormone. And this is what happens during exercise as well as sleep. So you will have a spike of secretion during midnight, and during exercise you can have a increased production of a growth hormone. Regulation we have already done. These are all the factors which stimulates, these are all the factors which inhibits, we have already done. Decreased glucose level, free fatty acid level, decreased protein or amino acid level, starvation, fasting, etc. will stimulate the growth hormone. Trauma, stress, excitement will also stimulate. Exercise will also stimulate. Testosterone, estrogen will also stimulate, as well as deep sleep. In stage 2 and stage 4 also there will be release of growth hormone, and growth hormone releasing hormone will also stimulate. This is a hormone which will be released from what we call as a hypothalamus. So all this factor will stimulate, while inhibition is by hyperglycemia, increased free fatty acid level, increased amino acid level, and aging, obesity, somatostatin, as well as if external growth hormone is given, then also it will inhibit the growth hormone secretion from anterior pituitary. And insulin like growth factor, what we call as a IGF or somatomedin C, will also inhibit the production of a growth hormone by negative feedback, long loop negative feedback system, acting on hypothalamus as well as anterior pituitary. Clinical disorders wise, there are two types of disorders: hypersecretions of growth hormone from anterior pituitary, either because of primary, that is acidophilic cell tumors, or we call as a eosinophilic adenomas, pituitary adenomas, which are belonging to eosinophilic cell or acidophilic cell or alpha cell, or by hypothalamus hypersecretion of growth hormone releasing factor. And if it occurs before fusion of epiphysis, it will result into gigantism. If it occurs after fusion of the epiphysis, it will result into acromegaly. And in a gigantism, if secretion continues to be elevated even after fusion of epiphysis, then it will result into combination of gigantism with acromegaly. We call acromegalic gigantism. So this is three groups of disorders which will come because of hypersecretions. Because of hypersecretions, the length or what we call as a height of a person will not increase, and that will produce what we call as a dwarfism. And also it can produce a disorder called acromicria. And if there is a total destruction of a pituitary gland and all the hormones, growth hormone plus other hormones, that is TSH, ACTH, all this hormone production, FSH, LH, if their production is decreased, it will end up with what we call as a panhypopituitarism. And one of the part of panhypopituitarism is decreased growth hormone production, and that we call as a Simon's disease. All these disorders will be gigantism, acromegaly, and dwarfism will be discussing in a subsequent lectures. So hypersecretion will give rise to gigantism, acromegaly, and acromegalic gigantism, while hyposecretion will give rise to dwarfism. So this is a typical acromegalic picture. You can compare the two. This is normal, this is abnormal. This is normal foot, this is abnormal. You can see there is an increase in the thickness, not length of the part. Here also there is an increased thickness, but not increase in length tremendously. This is, you can compare the length. So increase in the height, this is gigantism, while this is acromegaly. This is, again you can see, this is an acromegalic features. This is acromegalic features, prognathism, and acromegalic features, typical macroglossia. the tongue is markedly enlarged and increase in the size of the tongue. There is a misuse of this human gonadotropic hormone to increase the muscle mass and increase the body structure. It is a misuse and it can produce lot of complications. So approved use of a growth hormone in children mainly for growth hormone deficiency and or with what we call as the insufficiency. So if a person in a early age group in a children, if there is a growth hormone deficiency which has been proven by doing a hormone assay, you can replace that hormone. We call a hormone replacement therapy. In a person with a chronic renal insufficiency, before transplant, growth hormone is used. In Turner syndrome also, there is a decrease in the growth hormone level, so growth hormone is given in a person with a Turner syndrome. In a small gestational age or intrauterine growth rate of a babies who has not reached the normal height by the age of 2 years, in those people also growth hormone is being utilized. There is one syndrome called as a Prader-Willi syndrome, which is a genetic disorder. In that also growth hormone will give a good results. And in a person who has got a short stretches, also you can use a growth hormone to increase the height, who are unlikely to catch up the height with other person. So in those also it is being utilized. Off-label use means it has been not been proven in Noonan syndromes, genetic deficiency and chondrodysplasia. Particularly it is very commonly seen in Japan. But it is off-label use is partially beneficial in this particular syndromes. Indication and goals. So whenever you go give a growth hormone therapy, usually it is given and it has been proven and should be treated whenever the person is diagnosed to have a growth hormone deficiency. And person, once the height is achieved, then you can stop that particular growth hormone treatment. In a person with craniopharyngioma, if he develops a growth hormone deficiency also, in that also you can give growth hormones. The mode of administration is mainly by intramuscular or by nasal spray. These are the two common modes of giving growth hormone. Intramuscular are in injection forms, while or you can give even in a subcutaneous forms. And intranasal is usually in the form of a spray. So best is give in the evening, and dose will depend upon for what purpose you are using. Roughly it is given in the range of 20 to 50 microgram per kilogram per day. So that is the way you can give a growth hormone. So these are all the value of dose which you can give in a different disorder: growth hormone deficiency, Turner syndrome, chronic renal failure, then that Willis syndrome, etc. These are genetic defects. While you are giving a growth hormone therapy, you should take care of clinical evaluation should be done, measurement of IGF factor, IGF-1 factor, that is insulin-like growth factor, you should look for. Bone age should be assessed, thyroid function should be assessed, adrenal function should be done, and assess for scoliosis, and monitor also for hyperglycemia by HbA1c and sugar levels. All those should be done. Side effects of giving a growth hormone is intracranial hypertension. You can have a development of increased intracranial pressure. In a musculoskeletal, person can develop carpal tunnel syndrome, edema, muscle pains, bony pains, pain in the related fluid retention areas. Because of increase in the height, now person can develop scoliosis, or even a person can develop a spinal deformities. So try to look for that growth, because there can be an accelerated growth very fast. A person can have a sleep capital femoral epiphysis. So femoral epiphysis can have a sleep capitals. Person can also develop a sleep apnea, that is we call obstructive sleep apnea, because of a increased growth of a adenotonsillar tissue. And also because of the increased action on the pancreas, it can have a pancreatitis. These are all the side effects. The main investigation is to do a hormone assay level in a blood. So estimate the hormone assay level in the blood, and if it is elevated, it is increased growth hormone, and if it is less than the expected level, we call it the hyposecretions. Best is history and physical examination, which gives you a lot of ideas. In a neonatal childs, you can have hypoglycemia, prolonged jaundice, microcephalus, traumatic delivery, and particularly in a person with a chronic irradiation, cranial irradiation, there can be a decreased production. You can have a craniofacial midline abnormalities, and you can have a strong family history. You can have a history of trauma, CNS infection, infiltration, which can produce destruction of the pituitary gland or hypopituitarism. You should try to estimate the height with age. So try to find out that height and growth. In absence of short stature, if you estimate the level of growth hormone, that also will help you. You can have an X-ray investigations, radiological investigation to find out intracranial lesions, adenomas, which is increasing the production hypersecretion, as well as adenoma, which is decreasing the secretion of growth hormone, etc. All those should be done. So in a radiological investigation, bony age, in as far as skull is concerned, MRI and CT scan can be very, very helpful. And you can go for a pituitary height, volumes, etc. Look for those different signs, or we call size of the pituitary glands. Look at the position of a posterior pituitary gland, because a tumor including in a posterior pituitary gland can produce a compression of anterior pituitary and result into hypopituitarism. Biochemical assay for growth hormone can be done, and you can do a provocation test by provocating agents like arginine, clonidine, glucagon, insulin, or we call levodopa. So this can be utilized for provocating test. Clonidine test can be done very easily. All those can help you to find out whether the growth hormone production is there or not. Insulin-like growth effects, IGF level can also tell you regarding a growth hormone production. Because if growth hormone production is normal or over, the IGF level will increase. So try to identify that by doing those studies. Other optional is leptin levels, bone markers, growth hormone antibodies, lipid profiles, insulin level, bony age, etc. can be done. Here I end my lecture. I hope this lecture will be very helpful to you, because once in a while you will see a person with a growth hormone disorders.